Yo, don't forget to support WrestleTalk. And don't forget to give us a subscribe.
Support WrestleTalk!
Every WWE Superstar Shakeup 2019 move ranked. I'm Ollie Davis. This is Luke Owen. Kenny Omega is down. Now he's back up again at the front of the desk there. And welcome to the weekend edition of the WrestleRamble. We missed it last week.
We've missed it for 2 weeks.
We missed it for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a while since you and I have done this. Laurie and I did like a bonus one on Monday. But yeah, feels like it's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah, and apologies for not giving you enough content, guys.
Yeah. We have been slacking, it must be said.
Yeah, we really dropped the ball over WrestleMania.
Mate, just sleeping in is what we were doing.
Yeah, sleeping in the day.
At one point, I got up at 6:30 in the evening. I had to leave the house at 7.
Yeah, and you went to bed at 8 p.m. the previous night, which is worrying.
Much sleep.
Yeah, I'm worried about you.
Nearly 24 hours sleep.
No one should sleep that much.
Yeah, well, I felt like I needed it.
Anyway, it's Superstar Shake-Up week this week, and it was, drumroll, kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, I've seen some people say it was the worst of all time, but really, I'm like, it's hard to sort of rank them in comparison, really, because while they may seem like it's not really that interesting, I would argue that it's the people that are drafted that are not interesting as opposed to the draft itself and people moving. Like, some of these moves just feel like they're unilateral moves. They're not going to get pushed either way. They're just bodies that are being moved around.
I think of all the modern era brand split draft stuff, so ever since 2016, I think 2016 was the most exciting, just because it was the first one. It was a big draft.
It felt new.
2017.
And I'd also argue as well, that was the best setup as well, because they had people literally like drafting people, and like you had like first pick drafts. And as you said on I think it was the Smackdown review, you managed to turn storylines out of that.
Yeah, like the famous one being Carmella, who was picked last, I think, or was that a year later? 2017.
It was that year.
Was the Carmella year?
No, 2016 was the Carmella year.
And I believe they still at least had a kind of structure. 2018, people just turned up. But it created this amazing SmackDown roster of Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Andrade, like this super 6 people at the top of SmackDown. And, it's weird, a year later, we're talking about Kofi Kingston, who was not even factored into any of that. So at least it had that, but it didn't really have the structure or the format of the traditional draft and trades, and it was just confusing. People were showing up willy-nilly. There's no substance there. So of all of the stuff since the 2016 brand split, I think without question, this is the most disappointing draft in terms of execution and in terms of an uninspiring set of moves. Largely.
I think there are some good moves, actually. I would disagree on that front.
So it's very hard to have a completely disastrous superstar shakeup or draft. I hate that we call them the shakeups now.
I still call it the draft on Twitter, because it's easier writing draft than it's like, oh, these people have been drafted, as opposed to these people have been shooken up.
Yeah, the WWE have such an amazing roster of talent that it's almost impossible to do a bad draft, because you're always going to be excited about 1 or 2 people. So when I say this is the worst or most disappointing draft that they've done since 2016, that's not to say I'm not excited by it, because there's still some combinations that I very much am. But compared to the previous years, it feels very lackluster.
There were 2 huge names, I suppose, because it's AJ and Roman are probably like the big names that moved across, whereas everyone else was lower mid-card or tag teams that really felt like they had no direction on the brand they were previously on, with the exception of maybe the Usos. Rey Mysterio had been featured, but Andrade had been on SmackDown for a year and had done pretty much nothing. So hopefully, it's kind of the thing now, whereas I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, cool, Andrade's on Raw. Hopefully that can now create a push. I'm looking at Buddy Murphy on SmackDown. Hopefully that can create a really good singles push. Chad Gable's on SmackDown. Hopefully that can create a really good singles push. But I have got my hopes up a lot, and it's always been in me in the ass, and yet here I am, doing it all over again.
Yeah. Well, we're optimistic sports fans.
Optimistic, yeah.
Every season. Well, this is our season.
Absolutely that, and as the comments keep telling us, we're paid by WWE to be optimistic, yeah.
You raise a good point, though, that it's... And that's kind of how we've structured our list here, that a few of the moves that we've ranked high are just because we're excited about the potential. There's like nothing in WWE's track record to say that they're going to follow through with this, but we're so excited we're almost blinded by it. But on the flip side, some people who could potentially be freshened up in the draft, they've been so badly booked forever that we put them right at the bottom.
Yes.
Because we just can't, we can't even fathom putting our hopes in them again. And that's WWE's booking, not the performers themselves. So right at the bottom of our list, Eric Young to Raw.
Yeah, this is a real sad one. I did my news on Thursday that was kind of looking at like Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf and Nicky Cross and everything, saying goodbye to Sanity as a group. And it just made me think like, God dang it, man. Like you really had something there with these, like as a foursome unit, and you just did nothing. Like, and I would argue, didn't even try. Like, and that's, I think, what annoys me more about Sanity on the main roster. If they'd have come up and just fallen completely flat and the crowd didn't get into them and it just worked as an NXT act, then that's fine. You can say, well, it worked in NXT, it didn't work on the main roster. Some things aren't always going to work on the main roster. Hey, Adam Rose was over massively in NXT. Emma was over massively in NXT, just didn't transfer up to the main roster. But they just didn't even try. Took 2 months to debut them. They had one pre-show pay-per-view match, and that was it.
They had some fun video packages. I was into them then, even though they didn't have Nicky Cross. Those were still the days of, Sanity are coming up.
Yeah. There could still be something here. What an exciting little tag team division that SmackDown has got. But yeah, they didn't even try.
So it's not just the year of Eric Young being booked into oblivion. It's just, it's almost, I would have preferred this to have been mentioned on WWE.com. There's something so insulting about him being at the back of this graphic when they announced it on Raw and not, verbally saying, oh yeah, and Eric Young's coming across. It's insulting.
He's not going to go anywhere. We should also mention as well that at the time of this recording, Nicky Cross doesn't have a brand. In fact, if you go to her page on WWE.com, she doesn't have a brand list against her. And I wonder if that's going to be part of her character, is that she is brandless and she's just going to show up and cause havoc on each one of the shows. Alexander Wolf, it's reported, is heading back to NXT. I'd wager NXT UK, do a little ring camp reunion down there with Marcel Bartel and probably throw Fabian Eichner in there as well. Might as well. They're already a tag team with Wolf and Walter. And Damo is staying on SmackDown.
Killian Dane.
Killian Dane, yes. So we'll see what comes of him.
We've got a lot to get through, so we'll pick up the speed from now. EC3 to Raw.
Yeah.
It just...
He felt like a Raw guy anyway.
Yeah, it feels like a Raw... Yeah, he's got the body for Raw. They just... I don't know why they're not using him. The thing that's so sad about this is when Braun Strowman squashed him on Monday night, I just thought, oh, okay, he'll move to SmackDown, get paired with Drake Maverick. And that can be a new start, but that's not happening. And now, because he's staying on Raw, that kind of squash stench is going to stay with him.
Yeah, and when I said he feels like a Raw guy anyway, I don't think he's ever been on SmackDown. Like, I know he was one of that six that were like, hey, they can go across both brands. He might have been on SmackDown, but I don't think it was anything of note.
Yeah, if it was a dark match.
Or he appeared like in a backstage thing looking
at a mirror.
Yeah, maybe looking at a mirror or something like that.
Mickie James to SmackDown. This is kind of just a nothing trade, really. They've done nothing with her, which is such a shame because every time she's been put in a role of prominence that isn't associated with Alexa Bliss, I think she's knocked it out the park.
Yeah, this does separate her away from Bliss, though, so there is always that.
Liv Morgan to SmackDown. This is more... Maybe this should be higher because the Riot Squad... I do like the Riot Squad, but some people are distraught by this. I'm like, why? They haven't done anything.
Those classic feuds they had with Ronda and Natty over the table. Remember that one? I think the reason why I'd put Liv down so low is that, for me, the breakout star was Sarah Logan, not Liv Morgan.
Yeah, I guess so. Of all the ones to put by themselves.
Yeah. And Ruby Riott should be pushed further as well.
Apollo Crews to SmackDown. I think we're going from the bottom to the top, by the way. I think that speaks for itself. He's just had so many start-stop pushes. I'm tired of them now.
Crikey, remember that mega push he was getting around December time? I say mega push, that might be a bit harsh, but he got all those eliminations in that battle royal or whatever it was, and it felt like, hey, they're starting to push up. Nope, just drop that.
Now you said this was unfair.
I did say this
you
was
had
unfair.
this one ranked a lot higher, but I overruled you.
Yeah.
Lacey Evans to Raw.
Hey man, I'm supporting Lacey.
She's done nothing to convince me that she's A, any good, B, that she deserves a title program so prominently.
I don't know what to say, man. It's just that it's something different.
Yeah. Okay, well, in a month's time, 2 months' time, when Becky's still feuding with Lacey, everyone can come back and pay tribute to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? You're not wrong.
So now we move into the stuff I'm excited about. So those are the only bad ones.
I would say the next one is as well, only because the next on this was Heavy Machinery to SmackDown. And the reason I've got them down so low is that they're going into a tag division that is mostly non-existent. And so they're really going to struggle.
Yeah, but you never know who they're going to pair up with people. Kevin Owens and Kevin Owens and Xavier could be a tag team for a bit.
Maybe. With Biggie out. Yeah, Biggie's out. Sheamus is out. That takes away two of your top tag teams that you've got on SmackDown.
Chad Gable and Apollo Crews, bash them together.
Shelton Benjamin's still on SmackDown, so you could reunite American Beta.
So, and Heavy Machinery are so much fun.
And they love to have fun.
They love to have fun. That I don't really worry about them wherever they go. I'm not looking at them going, oh, these are future tag team champions, although they probably will be. They're more of the sort of comedy mid-card tag act.
And I don't think winning the tag belts really means much for the main roster.
No. Rey Mysterio to Raw. Yeah. It's just, I think we're more down on, he's not higher because we've been such a big fan of Rey over the last year. Well, before then, but he's returned to WWE. But we wanted him to face Lars.
Yeah.
And Lars has gone to SmackDown.
That is, and also, like, when I look at Rey on Raw, I'm like, where do you fit in here? Like, what role do you have? I suppose you can always just continue feuding with Joe. And I suppose that may be why I've got him so down on the list, or at least when I was writing up this list, why I put him down so low, is because the other two people that he was feuding with on SmackDown were Joe and Andrade, who have just gone over to Raw. So when you look at, who can you feud with? Well, Joe and Andrade. There's nothing fresh there. It's just it's the same lads, just with different colours now.
Yeah. Aleister Black and Ricochet to Raw, well-known established tag team.
And that's the reason I've got them down so low, is because they're still a tag team.
Yeah.
And also, they felt like Raw guys anyway, because, again, they barely featured on SmackDown. So they just felt
They
like...
featured on SmackDown a lot.
Did they?
Yeah,
In fact, they had more tag matches on Raw. They were on Raw every single week.
They had a lot of 6-man, 2-man, 4-man.
I would argue they had
8-man.
so many more matches on Raw, and they appeared in more We're Watching TV backstage segments on SmackDown. I know they competed for the SmackDown tag titles at WrestleMania, but I don't think that counts, as it was just thrown together at the last minute.
Well, this is one of the reasons why we're not excited. I think there's so many people on here where if they just held off on them until this week's show, would be over the moon.
Absolutely, yeah. Aleister Black and Ricochet on Raw now. That's incredible.
It's about time.
Yeah.
But because they got called up a month or two ago in the no man's land in the build to WrestleMania, it felt like it was impossible to get excited by them because they were lost in the shuffle for a month and a half of placeholding.
Plus, they're a tag team, and they shouldn't be a tag team.
Miz.
You bumped him up.
I bumped him up because Miz is excellent. Ever since that, like, no one has benefited or improved more since the brand split than the Miz in WWE, and that's largely because of Talking Smack and how he was really able to get himself over there. That fantastic feud with Daniel Bryan that wasn't so fantastic by the end of it, and of course there's the Miz theory, where whatever brand Miz goes to, that will be the more enjoyable show of WWE TV for that year.
Yeah. So, can Miz save Raw once again? And will I end up with Jinder Mahal as WWE champion again?
Yeah, the problem is Miz is now a babyface.
Yeah.
And the guy he was feuding with, Shane McMahon, which I just assumed was going to continue after Mania and the Miz Dad Shane money match.
It is, right?
Is it?
Well, he attacked Shane on Raw.
So Shane's on Raw?
Yeah, Shane. We said Shane's an omnipresence. He can go across both brands because there's no authority figures anymore. There's just the McMahons, and the McMahons control both shows. Again, which is why the Superstar shakeup doesn't really make any sense, because despite the fact that the McMahons in charge, they seemed blindsided by a lot of the changes that happened.
Yeah.
Maybe
can't they
it's
just
Linda.
stop Roman Reigns happening?
Maybe it's Linda that's making all the changes.
So that's why Miz isn't higher, but I'm a big fan of him.
Big fan.
He's now on the same show as Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas.
Oh, the Miztourage. I forgot about that little
Maybe
gimmick.
we've got a little babyface reunion.
The B team. Do you know what's funny? When we were going through the tag teams on Raw, I actually forgot to put down the B team. There was another team I forgot as well, and I forgot.
Stacked.
Yeah.
It's a stacked roster.
Oh, Rhino and Heath Slater was the other one.
The Viking Experience to Raw.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I am excited for Viking Experience on Raw, on the main roster. Kind of sucks that we now know they're just going to be losing the tag titles on NXT at some point. But, hey, they're such a good team. And I am on side of Lance Storm and Mick Foley and a few others here that talent will get over a name. Like, it's a bad name. It is a bad name. But it is not it's not bad enough a name that it's going to hold them back.
So I think a lot of people have gone and bogged down with the terrible name. My more fundamental disagreement with it is just, why bring them up? I don't look at War Raiders, Viking Experience, and think, let's bring them up to Raw's tag division. I'd bring up another team, or just no teams at all, because you brought up Ricochet and Aleister Black as a tag team for a bizarre reason.
Yeah.
I just, I don't get it. And the match they had at NXT, they're still the NXT Tag Champions. It's obviously a decision that was made very late in the day.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
And
it's so funny as well. I know you don't watch it, but on this week's NXT, there's a backstage segment with Street Profits. They walk out of William Regal's office wearing T-shirts that very prominently say War Raiders.
Yeah, Laurie told me, and then later on, Nigel McGuinness has to call them the Viking Experience. In what is probably an overdubbed line.
Oh, 100% it is, yeah. Same with Kairi Sane.
So yeah, there's the name, which is problematic, but it's just, I don't see the need for them to come up. So, yeah, it feels rushed. I get worried about rushed NXT call-up decisions because that implies they have no plans for them. And that's when we see these really amazing acts flounder, never recover.
I mean, I'm more concerned for them because Vince clearly has no love for tag teams at the moment. He does not care about the tag team division, doesn't care about the tag team titles. And when Vince isn't into something, that's when it gets lost in the shuffle. And unfortunately, tag teams just all fall under that umbrella, and they'll just be featured in matches that won't mean anything for belts that don't mean anything either. I actually don't know who the tag champs are. Oh, it's Hawkins and Ryder. But it did take me a little while there because I thought it was the Revival.
Maybe we'll get that tag match, Money in the Bank match this year.
Hey, that's why Sanity were brought up last year.
Naomi to Raw. Actually, I would put this lower.
Yeah, thinking about it, I probably should have put this lower.
Like Naomi, but I'm not really inspired by any of her matches.
And the Raw women's roster now doesn't feel that strong.
Natty. Tamina.
Yeah, with Nia out injured and Sasha Banks seemingly, in question, I suppose, at the moment.
And Alexa Bliss not really wrestling them that much at all.
Yeah, it might make Naomi the top star of their division. It's Naomi and Lacey Evans currently.
Samoa Joe to Raw, this is a question mark, but it's pretty much a given based on everything. He was meant to return there on Monday, but he was ill.
Yeah.
Sick to the point of barely functioning is the quote.
But he still showed up to work. That's how big of a man Joe is.
If I was flu, I would be scared that Samoa Joe got me.
Samoa Joe probably spent most of his time backstage trying to choke it out.
Yeah. He put himself in the Kikina clutch. Samoa Joe to Raw. He's done stuff on SmackDown, but he's not really felt big time, unfortunately.
I think that too long a feud with AJ really hurt a lot of Joe's momentum.
So, which is why we're positive on this move, because Joe on Raw, freshen up the character, start putting him in those big meat man matches.
But AJ is also there as well.
Yeah. But, Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, they just don't work together.
We went to go see Raw live, didn't we? Do you remember?
Such a clunky
I
match.
actually used that match. Samoa Joe versus Seth Rollins, I used that match to go get us drinks.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I was like, This is not very good. I'm going to go get a drink.
But I'm into Joe versus Braun. I'm concerned Joe might drop the US title to Braun as quickly as possible. But we'll see. Chad Gable to SmackDown and Cedric Alexander to Raw. I think those are both us optimistic.
Hoping against hope that it does lead to something.
They'll finally do something with Chad.
Oh,
and Alexander is, of course, moving from 205 Live, which is a great move. That they couldn't have picked two better 205 Live guys. We'll get onto the other one later to move across to main continuity, in my opinion.
Now, this next one is one that you moved up way higher than I had it, and I would argue should be way lower.
I like Elias.
Hey, I like Elias too. SmackDown is a 2-hour show. We can't have 15-minute Elias segments clogging up time.
Yeah, I know. So maybe they're not going to do that. Maybe they're going to
That's what he's
condense it
good
down.
at. You keep saying focus on the positives. That is his positive, is that he's very good in those segments. Then the bell rings. Remember the babyface push that he had when they stopped doing those segments and just had the matches, and he got less over because of it?
Well, I'm hoping you pace out the segments. You don't do it every week. And maybe you do. We were talking about the backstage film segments where you film skits with Elias. They're about 2 minutes a week, and you pepper shows with those. And then every 3 weeks you do a proper big in-ring segment.
My worry for Raw now is that show often feels like it struggles to fill time anyway. And they've taken away one of the easiest filler times that they had over there. Because they look at the run sheet and be like, God, we're running 20-minute show. We haven't put an Elias segment in yet. Of course it is. Slot that in there, middle of hour 2. That will bump up the time that we need, and we'll just slot in a couple of ad breaks there. And it'll lead to nothing.
Yeah. Maybe you should be lower. There's another thing as well. Have you seen the local advertisements for the main event programs on Raw and SmackDown?
Not.
Well, you'll be happy to know on Raw, it's AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, and Braun Strowman versus
the mid-card of evil. Yep, absolutely. Expect so.
And on SmackDown, it's Roman Reigns versus Elias.
Mate, those do not sound like fun matches.
I had to find an image for Roman Reigns versus Elias. I Googled it. 4 of the top 10 Google image search results were rest holds. You know where it's got the Raw logo in the bottom left?
Yeah.
And it's just Elias on the floor like that.
Chin lock.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
It's not the feud Roman needs right now.
It really, really isn't. But that's the match that they always book him in. The match where the heel just gets him in headlocks and rest holds, and then Roman, he fires back. It's the Hulk Hogan match that they've been doing since the 1980s that worked brilliantly in the 1980s, but wrestling's very different now in the 2019s.
It's Vince is not as innovative as everyone thinks. He always goes back to the safe things that worked in the past.
Yeah.
And not the proper things like consistency and logical storylines, but this template of match: Hulk Hogan, John Cena, now Roman Reigns. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. It's a shame. Finn Balor to SmackDown.
I'm of the opinion that Balor should drop the IC belt. Not sharpish, but I think he should drop it and get himself into that main event mix instead. Get in there with Kofi and Roman, because I can imagine Roman will be in that main event scene, Owens and Randy Orton. I think that he is too good to be in the sort of mid-card slot. He needs to be in that WWE Championship picture, particularly if he has the Good Brothers backing him up.
Yeah, or he turns heel, keeps the IC title.
Yeah, but again, that still just slots him in that mid-card, and I think he's better than that. I think he can go above it.
Lars Sullivan to SmackDown.
Yeah, you moved him up our list.
Yeah, I just think he's got a lot of potential. I know he went a bit creepy Carmella with the lucky Carmella. But I like Lars Sullivan. I love the way he wrestles and moves. We haven't actually seen him in a proper match yet, just beatdown segments. I don't think we'll see him in a proper match for quite some time. We're going to get a lot of squashes. But yeah, I'm hopeful. That's all I can say. I'm hopeful. It's a shame he's not on the same brand as Rey Mysterio, because I think that would be the perfect first feud.
Such a good first. But is there like a smaller guy, Chad Gable maybe, to have a feud with?
But Lars doesn't gain anything from beating Chad Gable.
That's very
Chad
true,
Gable's been beaten by everyone.
Yeah, it's true.
So I don't know where they go there, but I'm inadvisedly hopeful. Kairi Sane to SmackDown.
I've actually realised we've missed someone off the list as well, because it confirmed that Sami Zayn's on Raw as well.
Okay.
Because he showed up on SmackDown last week, so there was a bit of a question mark of what brand he was on, I guess. But he is now a Raw guy.
Okay, so he was a Raw guy before, though.
Yeah, but he was on SmackDown.
Kevin Owens is technically a draft of SmackDown.
Yeah, he got drafted.
Oh, this is so confusing. But Kairi Sane to SmackDown.
Yeah, I've got all three of the SmackDown women's trades. I grouped them together, Ember Moon, Bayley, and Kairi Sane, because I just think that it bolstered SmackDown's women's division so much. I was thinking about this morning, though. The women's tag division now feels very lacking. There are, I think, just 3 teams. You got the Iconics, Asuka and Kairi Sane, and Fire and Desire, because Nia's injured, so that team's out. Riot Squad have been split up.
Well, I guess you could have Ruby and Logan.
Unless Ruby and Logan stick together,
That would be weird.
And it just, like, as much as you can put up this pretense that the tag belts are being defended across both brands, really, they're just going to be defended on what brand the people were originally on until another brand wins it, and then they'll just defend it amongst their group of teams as well. So it just feels like the SmackDown women's tag division, I don't think has a lot of teams currently.
Yeah, that's interesting. They've got a lot of women, though.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if they
just
merge some together.
It's this exact thing happened with TNA when they had the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. They introduced them thinking like this was like, you know, the mid to late 2000s. So way ahead of WWE and sort of thing. Way ahead of them. I mean, TNA, for all their faults, way ahead of WWE in terms of actually presenting women as wrestlers. But, you know, it was all our fault. It was all our fault. Sorry, Paige. But they introduced these tag belts because the beautiful people were so over. And then after a while, they were like, well, we can't just keep them on the beautiful people all the time. We'll just put Franken teams together. Tag belts then never meant anything, and Eric Young won them.
Yes. Well, maybe that's what will happen here.
Eric Young's on Raw, so hope. Yeah, maybe.
Eric Young and Nicky Cross.
Yeah.
There's your sanity that you wanted. But yeah, all 3 of them. Kairi Sane, very excited to see her up with Asuka, although the Paige pairing is questionable. Bayley, I know she got booed. I'm holding out.
Someone did tweet me saying that Canada hates Sasha Banks, and they were booing Sasha Banks being mentioned, not Bayley.
Meltzer has said from people he's spoken to who were also there, well, they were so into Ember Moon versus Becky Lynch that when Bayley came out, the crowd just booed.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they would have booed anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you reset Bayley into pure babyface once again, I mean, I'm concerned it's bolted now. That horse is bolted.
I'm hoping that this is a firm reset button and we can get ourselves back to proper Bayley again.
But Ember Moon hasn't been ruined. She's quite unique. She's at the Total Eclipse has actually been quite protected. She hasn't done anything.
Nope.
But she hasn't been badly booked.
Yeah.
She's been inefficiently booked. So she's actually got the most potential of maybe any of all the trades.
I could see her winning Money in the Bank.
Yes. A Total Eclipse off the ladder.
Oh, hello, mate.
So yeah, very exciting. The Usos to Raw, just because that freshens up their competition.
Yeah, really
and
does.
Raw's, as you said, the tag division is stacked now. Like the Usos versus the Viking Experience.
But like, name aside, that match is money right there. That's a match I want to see.
Splash versus Splash.
Oh, mate, cartwheel versus cartwheel.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Andrade and Zelina Vega as a package to Raw.
Because I think this is something you can push Andrade into that main event scene now. Get him out of that sort of like mid-card position that he's been in. Slot him straight in there with Seth and everyone else.
And that's all, like, Vega makes that act seem so big time.
Yeah.
There's something about their pairing that works so well. And yeah, Andrade versus AJ. Now Andrade versus Rollins is enormously exciting.
Well, that's it. Like you saying that Seth versus AJ is like the matches that are currently on the house show loops, or at least being advertised for the house show loops, are exciting. I'm more into the idea of Andrade versus Seth, though. Like real heel Andrade going up against pure babyface Seth Rollins.
Speaking of AJ Styles to Raw.
Yeah. Freshens him up a lot. He's not been on Raw since the brand split. He's been very much a SmackDown guy. Same with the Usos. So actually them moving across really does feel like a freshening up of him. Same with Roman.
Yeah. And Roman Reigns to SmackDown.
Yeah.
Which is... Well, I really felt like that was a big deal. And I thought the reset of his character, I know you said that you made fun of me for saying that, but he wasn't a grateful, humble Joanna Ai who's just come back from leukemia. Because effectively, since he came back to WrestleMania, he's been doing that shtick.
Yeah.
It's a house show. I'm just happy to be here. Here are my Shield buddies. And I thought that was a mistake. Maybe not a mistake for the first week, just because everyone was so happy to see him, but a mistake in the long run because you really want to start building on that momentum now rather than just keeping him at, isn't it great he's here? Isn't it great he's here?
Yeah.
I want to move on from real life and go back into make-believe world that he's a superhero. And I felt like that was what happened here. And punching Vince McMahon in the jaw. The only thing I would change is don't have him wrestle before now. Have him come back in February, announce that he's in remission, he'll be back soon, then you don't see him until SmackDown Superstar Shakeup where he comes out at the end.
But we wouldn't have had our last Shield reunion against the mid-card. Was it against the mid-card of Evil?
Look, you could just get a couple of weeks longer on Dean Ambrose's contract and you'd maybe do something like that. That was a nice moment, but I think it comes at the detriment of longevity and Roman's push. Because that Roman versus Drew match had no right being on the WrestleMania card.
A card that was too long as it was. Sorry, I didn't mean to try and cut you off there, but I was going to say another way around that to kind of like combine the two ideas together is that you bring him back in February and say, hey, I'm in remission, y'all. I'll be back soon. Everyone's like, woohoo, yay, this is great. I'll be back soon. Keep him off TV, debut him here on SmackDown, but at the same time, in that big, long gap of stretch, advertise the Shield's final match is going to be on this house show that we're going to be doing that's going to be airing live on the network, so you can tune in and watch it. So you think that's going to be Roman's big return match, and that's the match that we're building to.
Yeah.
And then you have this nice big surprise here.
That's really good.
That way you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. The best of both worlds.
Yeah. And it
starts here. It's all about.
Starts here tonight.
But you might be thinking, hey, there's one you've missed. And it's not Sami Zayn.
No.
Or Kevin Owens. Or
Nicky
probably
Cross.
loads of others we've missed. Our top pick, and we both agreed on this. You wrote it down first, and I was like, you know what? Yes. Buddy Murphy, the SmackDown.
There is so much potential in Buddy Murphy on SmackDown Live that I am very, very excited. I just don't want to be here in 6 months' time thinking, God, do you remember how excited we were for Buddy being on
Why are we doing
SmackDown?
this to ourselves?
I don't want him to be Andrade. We need to get that now as because and I don't want him to just become Buddy like within the next couple of weeks.
Oh yeah,
because he has got a surname, and those are things that Vince does not like.
They get a chop him. A surname. Or, I mean, back in the day, it was the first names. Alexander, Antonio.
Yep.
Good God.
So, yeah, he could end up just being Buddy. Is Buddy worse than being called Murphy?
I quite like Buddy. Reminds me of the elf.
Yeah, but that's probably not the best thing in the world, is it? To be reminded of Buddy the elf.
A short guy.
Yeah.
Having connotations to an elf gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's... but please disagree or agree with us in the comments down below and rank your Superstar Shake-Up picks.
There's a lot of them.
It is a bank holiday weekend over here in the UK. It's a 4-day weekend, although we are getting 3 days of weekend.
Yes.
But please, so that's all we've got time for today. But we'll be back in full force from next week with these WrestleRambles on the Saturdays. Sorry for all of you who have been missing the crap gimmicks and whatnot, but they will return and the mailbag. So please click the videos that have just appeared on the desk to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk videos, and this button right here, which will not subscribe you, it will make you a pledge hammer on Patreon, where you can get access to loads of exclusive content and shout-outs. I've been Ollie Davis, this has been Luke Owen, and that was Rambling.